Hello, MCU fans. Well, The Marvels has now landed on Disney Plus, which means this video is going to cover two main things. Number one, where it landed on the Disney Plus timeline and why. And number two, the multiversal ramifications of this movie. And boy, there are some doozies. So, there will be lots of spoilers, but as long as you're okay with that, then let's dive right in and see what we can find out. Now, don't forget, we do have the February contest running all month long. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a comment, and you could win a book or a steelbook. Best of luck. And we also have the new membership option in case you want to help me in my goal of doing this full time one day. And one of the new perks is behind the scenes videos showing things like the metrics for the videos, how they're performing, the history of the channel, etc. So love to have you join as a member if you're interested, but no matter how you support the channel, it's all greatly appreciated. Liking videos, subscribing, leaving comments, it all goes a long way. So thank you so much. So there's two main flashbacks that I want to cover from a timeline standpoint first, and then we'll talk about where the movie fits in the Disney Plus timeline. So the first flashback I'm putting in late 1995, and that's Carol destroying the Supreme Intelligence. I'm placing it at that location and time because we know Dar-Benn was there at the time, and then also she reveals that she has been, for the last 30 years, fighting alongside everyone. So because the destruction of the Supreme Intelligence led to a civil war among the Kree, I'm kind of thinking she's implying that's when the Civil War started. Plus, it fits well with the fact that after the first Captain Marvel movie, Carol was like, I'm going to take care of some business right away. So it seems like she would have destroyed the Supreme Intelligence soon after the first movie. The second flashback is when Maria Rambeau passes away from cancer because she realizes the cancer's back. And in the timeline book, they basically tell us 2020 is when she dies. Well, based on what looks like maybe greenery outside the window, I could see this scene happening in mid-2020 and maybe her passing away a little later that year. And of course, Carol comes to visit, which is really cool because we thought that Carol didn't see Maria. Of course, Monica's blipped at this point, so has no idea Carol came back. But it's really cool that she visited, and that's how, of course, she got a hold of Goose. So this flashback I'm going to put in mid-2020 timeframe. All right, so how about the movie itself? When does it happen? Well, Disney Plus places it at the end of the timeline. No surprise there, really, because it sure seemed like it had to happen after Secret Invasion, but we'll discuss all the reasons why. Also, we can put in some of the months and years. We know the Guardians Holiday Special is December 2025 because it's actually in the timeline book. Everything else is just a guess, but I've done videos on the July, August, and November settings there in case you want to see why I am placing them in those months. But Secret Invasion, let's talk a little bit about why I did place that in November 2026. The movie is happening around Unity Day. In fact, the first episode is around Unity Day. That is always November 4th every single year because it's like a national event that they're honoring in Russia. So unless Marvel is once again ignoring when cultural events happen in the real world, then that would mean Secret Invasion is in November. Okay, so that makes sense. Also, we do know Secret Invasion is before the Marvels based on some Sam Jackson quotes where he said the series has to happen so the Marvels can happen. All these things are connected in an interesting sort of way. And you never really can trust the actors, writers, directors, producers when they're giving quotes. But Sam Jackson knows his stuff. I'm sure he knew Secret Invasion was before the Marvels. Okay, so let's look at when each major character had their previous last appearance before the Marvels. We have Monica Rambeau in WandaVision in November 2023. We have Carol actually showing up at the end of the post-credit scene in Shang-Chi, April of 2024. Now, Fury appeared in Far From Home and then does appear next in Secret Invasion, but still, the Far From Home appearance is really important, so I am going to put that here. Miss Marvel herself, Kamala, is in September to October 2025, and all of these dates, by the way, have been firmly established now by the timeline book. Then we have the Secret Invasion, which I'm saying I think is in November 2026. So that means the Marvels has to be at least November 2026 for everybody's appearance. So we'll talk about why I think it is still in November as we go into this a little deeper, but it feels like it's right after Secret Invasion, honestly. So let's look at some of the reasons for that. So first of all, Fury has appeared 3 times since Endgame, Far From Home, Secret Invasion, and now in the Marvels. And one of the main reasons that Secret Invasion has to be before the Marvels is Talos says, oh, it's so heavy here, man. I got to go up to my space station, and you've been up there for years. So he's really ticked about that. Well, considering in the Marvels, he comes back to Earth twice. it seems like Talos would have been aware of these visits. Now, the first one, maybe not. That was just to Kamala's house. But the second one, they legit crash landed in Central Park, it seems, or somewhere in a massive park. So that probably made the evening news, and Talos would be aware of it. So makes sense that this happens after Secret Invasion. Also, this is really key. Talos says, I sent out the call, and every Skrull that isn't in Emperor Drozha's colony, well, they've answered. So the key is Drozha's colony is not on Earth. And we're going to see during the Marvels, obviously, they end up coming to Earth. So this statement has to be before the Marvels, unless I guess Talos just didn't know. But it seems like he would know if Drozha was and his colony was coming to Earth. Also, we have the peace talks. At the end of Secret Invasion, they mentioned the Kree said they're open to peace talks with the Skrulls. I need your help. And Vara's like, my help? He's like, yeah, you, with this, this peace summit, you're the best diplomat the Skrulls have ever had. Now, I will point out what a lot of people pointed out. Why then did we not see Vara in the Marvels? That would have been so cool if she was just there, even for a brief scene. But maybe that's the answer. It was a lot more money than they wanted to spend to have her show up for 10 seconds and say a line. Still, though, that'd have been really cool. But nonetheless, we now see these peace talks taking place in the Marvels. Carol gets confused on what's going on, but she says, Fury, it's the Kree. They're going after the Skrulls on Tarnax. So Tarnax is where Drozha's colony is located. Fury's like, hey, this is a peace and reconciliation tour. Be careful. So notice Skrull refugee colony. That is definitely the colony that Talos was referring to on Tarnax. And there's Drozha. And he says the Skrulls have been scattered to every corner of the universe. Here's what's kind of funny, though. It's spelled differently in the closed captions. This time it's DRO''GE, and the other time when Talos said it, it was DROGGE. So it doesn't matter. It's closed captions, but it's just kind of funny. But yeah, it would have been nice if Vara had made even the briefest of appearance, but she didn't. We can assume she's there and just trying to help. So then, obviously, all hell breaks loose and the planet gets destroyed, but Valkyrie comes in to save the day and to grab the remaining survivors of the colony and says, bye to Carol, hope our next meeting will be joyful, and they head back to Earth. So again, it has to happen after a Secret Invasion. What's kind of funny, though, is I love, only Valkyrie would be gutsy enough to do this right after Ritson made his declaration, no aliens allowed on Earth. So I'm guessing that New Asgard didn't really appreciate the fact that they are technically considered aliens. And so, yeah, it's just like her to thumb her nose at Ritson and say, fine, I'm bringing more Skrulls, literally, more of them to Earth. So you wonder, will there be a fight between New Asgard and the United States? Because remember, Ritson said, I'm signing a bill that designates all off-world born species enemy combatants. That includes Asgardians. And we will kill every one of you, including Asgardians, I guess. Yikes. And if you truly care about the Skrulls, he tells Fury, get them off my planet. So I agree. It's funny to think that after Ritson said this, they would then bring more Skrulls to Earth. I get that, but it is such a Valkyrie thing to do. I love her. So yeah, it totally all fits. I think everything here is working great. Now, one question that's come up is this dude, Dag. Is he a Skrull or is he maybe an Asgardian? What is he? Because he says, when he's asked how old he says he's 306. So he ain't human. We know that much. My guess is he's not a Skrull. I think the Skrulls have been, unfortunately, kicked off the station, which is sad. However, I could see him being an Asgardian because notice he says, and I'm going to butcher this, but sweet Svartalheim? Yeah, you know what it is. Anyway, that's the Dark Elf world. So I don't know why a Skrull would mention one of the 9 realms in he's kind of cursing. It wouldn't happen. Versus an Asgardian would. So my guess is he's Asgardian. Now, that still means there's an alien on board the station, but it's also possible Ritson has no idea that he's Asgardian, which is kind of funny. So okay, that all still fits. Okay. Now let's talk about whether people's ages fit if we go with this November timeframe. So let's start with Kate, one of my favorite. I love Kate Bishop so much. So glad she showed up. Lucky obviously showed up, which is epic. So at the end of the movie, Kamala says, do you think you're the only kid superhero in the world? So of course, by her saying kid, Kate says, well, I'm 23. So does Kate's age of 23 work in November of 2026? Well, let's look back at Hawkeye. In Hawkeye, which is December 2024, she's 22 because she says, I'm 22. We also know she's a senior in college in December 2024 because she talks about, Yelena, when she's reciting everything about Kate, says GPA 3.8, senior, double major, etc. So, does this work? Okay, the wiki rocks. This is how they broke this down to try to figure out what Kate's birthday is, because that's really important. So, Kate is 22 on December 20th of 2024, so that means she was born somewhere between the range of December 21st, 2001 and December 20th, 2002. Okay, great, because we know how old she was in that Hawkeye episode. We know that she's a college senior in December 2024, meaning her kindergarten year was September to 2008 to June of 2009. That's assuming she didn't skip any years, and she's really smart, so one can assume she didn't skip any years. In New York, you start kindergarten on the year that you were 5 on December 1st, which means she was 5 on December 1st of 2008, thus meaning her birthday is somewhere in the range between December 2nd of 2002 and December 1st of 2003. If you then overlap those two ranges, we know her birthday has to be between December 2nd and December 20th of 2002. You gotta love it. Go wiki, right? So here's the point then. That means that she would turn 24 in December of 2026. If this is in November of 2026, she's still 23. So it works. It has to be before December, somewhere in December. Let's say her birthday is December 2nd, just for the fun of it. Then the movie has to be before December 2nd. But yeah, that's why I think it's definitely in November of 2026. So Kate's age works perfectly. Thank you again, Wiki. Okay, also, since we're on this scene, let's just do a real quick mention of the Young Avengers tease. I love this. Kamala says, I've been reading up on you. You've just become part of a much larger universe. That's so funny because that's just like Fury said at the end of the first Iron Man movie. So I love that. And then she says, did you know Ant-Man has a daughter, referring to Cassie? She's probably aware of Cassie because Ant-Man's book has come out by now. So that's pretty cool. And then she says, I'm putting together a team and I want you on it. And then as only Kamala can do, she says, please. That's awesome. So who you got for the Young Avengers? Here's my guesses, and I would say that the top row is more likely, and then the bottom row gets less and less likely as we go down. But so clearly, Kate, Kamala, and Cassie, all three are in. I cannot imagine Wiccan is not, because we're going to see him in Agatha Covenant of Chaos. I would think we would get Speed too. They're both going to be aged up, yes, but I would imagine, or maybe we only get Wiccan and we don't get Speed. Patriot, of course, is from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We have Ironheart. We have America Chavez. We have good old Scar. Love that haircut, dude. Fix it. And then I'm going to keep Kid Loki on here because I really hope he joins. I know he's stuck in the void, but he's not dead, so you never know. Anyway, tell me what you think. Who on here is definitely in, who is not, and who have I left out? So anyway, can't wait for the Young Avengers. All right, so we're talking about ages. We can't forget Kamala's. Okay, so we know that Kamala is 16 in September of 2025, which is the Miss Marvel series, because she says, I'm 16. So that makes it really easy. We also know she's a junior in September of 2025 because her guidance counselor is saying, let's talk about your junior year. Okay, great. Now that would mean in November of 2026, she would be a senior. That still works because we see this scene where she says, where her mom is calling up, that doesn't sound like science to me. So assuming that, she's still in high school working on her science project. Also, they give this line in the Marvels where they joke about Kamala's not going to graduate from high school if, and in this scene, Monica Rambeau, too many M's. Anyway, Monica Rambeau has to fly up and try to rescue poor Kamala. But the key is she's still in high school. And you could argue maybe the reason Fury's joking that way is because she is a senior. You're thinking of graduation, right? But it could also work with any age or with any of the, junior in high school, whatever. But I think this does lend itself to her being, again, a senior, which is all working. This is all working perfect until we got this. Ugh, Kamala is 16. So that's impossible. She can't be 16. She would have to be at least 17 because if we know she's 16 in September 2025, then she would turn 17 in September of 2026. So she cannot be 16. So this is wrong. The question is why? Is it because she just forgot to update her own graphic? I mean, let's say her birthday was in September, then it was just like 2 months ago. I would still think she would fix it, but maybe she didn't. That would be an in-universe answer. Obviously, a real-life answer is they just messed up the graphic. But it's also possible they're retconning her age. They did it with Cassie. They totally changed Cassie's age. So that's possible too. But let's look at this. I'm going to lend it. I'm going to think that the issue is the prop is wrong. Okay. Because sometimes props are just wrong. So let's look at this iPad of Kamala. We see some information on her. I love that smile. We see some information on her bangle. We see some information on her family. But here's the real key. When we get to this page that has her demographics, where is she located? There's the address. And if you're like me, you can't read that. So I'll blow it up a bit. Certainly looks like her address is 387 Grove Street, New Jersey, Jersey City, New Jersey. Why do I bring that up? Well, because in the Marvel's TV show, her first series, she gets this package from her nanny, and it's definitely was sent right now. It eventually ends up in the attic, if you remember, but right now it was just sent because it's for a big event that they have coming up. And the address is 179 Grove Street. Remember, here it was 387 Grove Street. So, first of all, thank you, eScope, on the server for pointing this out. But why am I bringing this up? Well, because props are sometimes wrong. I mean, obviously, they didn't move. Well, or maybe they did. I don't know, but it looks like the same house. So that means the 16 could just be wrong, and they're not trying to retcon her. She really should be 17. In fact, speaking of props being wrong, how about this from her bio? Heritage inhuman, classification polymorph? Ouch. So clearly, they pulled this information from the comics wiki, not the MCU wiki. Because in the MCU, she's mutant, and she is not a polymorph. A polymorph is, she can change her body around, a la Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards. So in the comics, though, yes, she is inhuman, and she is a polymorph. So all I'm trying to say is props are sometimes wrong. I don't think we should take that 16 too seriously. However, the director seems to think she's 16, though, because in this interview, she said, then there's this 16-year-old girl who can make hard light. Okay, well, that's a bummer, because that makes me think maybe the prop was right then if the director is saying that. But, and I'm not trying to be too mean to the director, but the director also had this hilarious quote in Vanity Fair, where she basically admits there were days when she texted Destin Daniel Cretton, who directed Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, with things like, I'm overwhelmed, I'm so stressed. As she puts it now, sometimes you be in a scene and like, what the heck does any of this mean? Or is an actor looking at some crazy thing happening in space and they're actually looking at a blue X? She said there were obviously very hard days and days where you're like, this just isn't working. So no offense, but it seems pretty clear the director, Nia DaCosta, might have been a little bit out of her league to jump into the middle of a Marvel movie. So therefore, I could totally see her getting the age wrong because she was just stressed. She was overwhelmed by all of this. So bottom line is, I do not think that 16 is trying to retcon Kamala's age to be only being 16 in the Marvels. I think it's just wrong. I think it's just wrong. But I will point out there's another issue with it being in November. This weather does not look like November. On the left, look at that big tree. On the right, when they crash land, you can see the tree once again does not look like November. And look at my main man sitting there at the picnic in short sleeves. That ain't going to happen in New Jersey or New York area. You're not going to be short sleeve in November unless it is 2026. So maybe we have massive global warming in the next 2 years. Please no, please. So, what do you do with the weather, right? I mean, sometimes these scenes are filmed at a certain time of year and they're not meant to indicate that's the time of year in the movie. That's the bottom line. But this certainly does not look like November. And it also doesn't match the weather in Secret Invasion. Notice in Secret Invasion, you see the trees that have no leaves and they're on the ground. But I can write this one off because Secret Invasion is in Russia versus, the previous scene was in America. So the weather could be different and different temperatures, etc. So I don't think this is an issue, but it is interesting to point out that this weather looks a lot more like November than the Marvels. Oy vey. Okay, so what do we do with this? I think we just look at this scene and we say, or these scenes, and we say, I don't care. It's November and it just happens to be really, really warm. Really, really warm. But I will throw out, we've had some discussions on the Discord server, trying to brainstorm stuff. If by chance Marvel is ignoring Unity Day being November 4th, just like they ignored the Eid celebration in Miss Marvel, that's supposed to have been in June and instead Miss Marvel's placed in September, then we could technically say, oh, the Unity Day happens in September. And that would move the Marvels back to September, which would actually work with Kamala's birthday and Kate's birthday. So I have a question for everybody. What do you think takes more precedence? Do you think it's actually in November, Secret Invasion, because of Unity Day? So in other words, does a cultural event take precedence? Or is that really supposed to be 16? Is she actually 16 in the movie? And therefore, that takes more precedence, and this needs to move back to September, which, by the way, makes the weather work better, too. I could see in September that dude having a picnic in the park. I'll be honest, my opinion, I think Unity Day takes more precedence, and the weather and the age are a mistake. So I'm still going to stick with November 2026 for both, but I'd really love your opinion. Tell me if you think that I really should be going with September. And where do you think, more importantly, the next timeline book will end up placing it? Okay, so last thing, but I think an incredible thing, is this multiversal discussion. So let's talk first about these bangles. This is where Dar-Benn finds the bangle inside this monolithic thing here, like a grave, I'm guessing. What is this, right? What is going on here? I've heard rumors that they were going to make this Eon's tomb, because Eon supposedly created the quantum bands, because we're going to learn these are quantum bands. But they scrapped that. So it doesn't matter. That's not Eon, clearly. It kind of looks Kree, but so what's the deal? Why did they bury it inside his coffin? And then remember, the other one was found on Earth in that cave with the Kree arm. So clearly there's a Kree stuff going on here. But what? How did this end up happening? I cannot wait until they explain that. That'll be really interesting. But Kamala mentions, I once traveled with them through space and time, which of course she did in her series in that closed loop time travel. And that's what leads Carol to say, oh, you're describing a quantum band. So Carol obviously knew what they were. And then she explains, it's an ancient artifact. And if the Kree legends are true, the quantum bands were used to create every jump point in the universe. It's pretty cool to think that James Gunn kind of came up with these jump points in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies just to find a way to get the Guardians across space quickly. And now they're this huge plot point throughout the entire multiverse. Pretty wild. Then I love it that she calls it a teleportation network. I'd never considered before how the jump points work, but yeah, that makes sense. You're really teleporting across space and time just within the same universe. And we're going to see that they actually can go between universes if they're not careful with these things. So two quantum bands working together in unison connected the galaxy and created what they're referring to as the Universal Neural Teleportation Network, instead of jump points. That is a more sophisticated term, obviously. So yeah, the quantum bands are really, really powerful. Then I love this too. They explain that it's a system of wormholes through the space-time continuum. So yikes, would you really want to be using wormholes to jump around the galaxy? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But we do find out that Dar-Benn, when she has both of the bangles, is able to open a literal rift in space. And of course, she dies in the process. But here's what's wild. I had heard earlier rumors that this was a black hole, but nobody could get a good picture of it in the theater. It was all like nasty, terrible resolution. I'm really convinced now that's a black hole. There you can see it there even better. So basically, instead of just a regular jump point, which moved you from one point in space in our in 616 universe, I should say, to another space, this opened a rift that literally created a black hole that then formed a rift between alternate universes. Craziness. But here's why that black hole is so fascinating to me. That probably explains why they showed us the black holes in Loki. Because remember, we entered the black hole and then we were inside the sacred timeline. So it wasn't so much like that's the origin point per se. It's the way you can jump between alternate universes is by going through a black hole. Oh my word, who would want to do that, right? But I can tell you one person, and okay, this is a mild spoiler from Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur Season 2, Episode 1. I say very mild. However, if you don't want to know anything about Moon Girl, plug your ears for the next 30 seconds because I don't want to give away a spoiler. But so plug your ears in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so for everybody else, in Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, which is obviously in an animated universe, not in our universe, not in 616, but she discusses using a black hole to get back home because she gets shot into an alternate universe herself. So, wow, that is not by accident. That is not by accident that even in Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, they're talking about using black holes to jump between alternate universes. Whoa. I love how this is all connected. So cool. Okay, hopefully everybody else is back to plug your ears. All right, so this rift in space opened to an alternate universe. As Monica explains, a self-propagating singularity. Remember how singularities are inside the black hole? In fact, those are what ultimately turned into infinity stones. So these terms are all coming back into play. But anyway, a self-propagating singularity with negative mass and non-Newtonian topology. Oh my word. But then she turns around and says, okay, she tore a hole in space-time, basically. Yes, she did. So again, instead of a rip in space-time in the universe itself, it was a rip in space-time between two universes. Wild. So she's saying that different reality is now bleeding into ours. Monica then, of course, goes to try to close the rift, but realizes she has to do it from the other side and then seals herself off, and she can't get back. So where does she end up? Well, in some alternate universe. We don't know which one yet. And I'm going to talk a little bit about which one I think it might be. But notice Beast is saying, all we know is that Binary found you. My theory is you somehow crossed through a tear in space-time. Yep. And you are now in a reality parallel to your own. Now, that's interesting that he says parallel to your own. It reminds me of when He Who Remains was describing the universes as stacked. So they're not connected. That's the real key. Are universes connected to each other? Are they anchored to each other? Or are they completely separate? If they're completely separate, this is the only way to get, between them. Obviously, America Chavez can jump between them. But now we're seeing the black holes can actually let you jump between them. And of course, as he says, this is impossible. This shouldn't be possible, which goes back to Michael Waldron's quote that it's literally impossible for anybody to do it on their own. Only America Chavez can do it on her own and jump all over the place. So I'm going to go back to my model again that I've shown in so many of my multiverse videos. And let me just say one key thing here. Terminology is very frustrating because if we go on the far right with 616 universe, in What If, they call it universes, branched universes. Obviously in Loki, they call them branched timelines. So I don't know. Is it a universe? Is it a timeline? It's very frustrating. But the key is we are in a separate universe from where we're seeing Beast. So what is Beast's universe? Where is this thing happening? Is it the same universe as 838? I don't think so. Because obviously Charles is dead. We're going to see he's going to mention Charles in a second. Maria Rambeau isn't binary. She's actually Captain Marvel. So no, I don't think it's that universe. Is it the X-Men 97 universe? I don't think so because that's an animated universe. I think they're going to stick with it being an animated universe, and I just don't think they're going to suddenly make it be the same as a live action. But I do think it's going to be Deadpool's universe. I think we're going to see Deadpool interact with this universe for sure. So that's really cool. Okay. Let me know what you think. Which universe is it? What universe do you think it is? But my guess is that it's going to ultimately be what we see in Deadpool 3. Okay, so again, I alluded to this, but Beast says Charles has asked for an update, so Beast takes off to go talk to Charles, and Binary is left talking to Monica. And notice Binary has two bangles. So that's interesting. That means each of these alternate universes seems to have the bangles. Fascinating. But these are universes that are not branched from each other. They're not connected. You can jump between branched universes. We saw it in What If. We saw it in The Time Heist. We saw it in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. These are parallel, stacked, whatever you want to say, alternate. These are different universes. But there she is with a set of bangles. Fascinating. And then she looks at Monica and says, "Who are you?" And then it ends. So wild. And again, she's different, I think, from the Maria Rambeau that showed up as Captain Marvel in Multiverse of Madness. Okay, so let me know what you think about all of that. And then I have one last funny little question to ask. Did the shield return to the Statue of Liberty? Because remember in No Way Home, Statue of Liberty had that ill-fated shield that she was holding up. Well, look at that in the upper left-hand corner. That sure looks like the shield. And then now I'm able to capture another scene as I was, able to get the video on Disney Plus. And notice that sure looks like the shield. Oh my word! Why did they put that thing back up there? It was not a good idea. It is not structurally sound. It's not OSHA approved. So I think that's interesting. Did they make a mistake in putting that there? Or are they implying it's back? So I guess we got to wait till the next time we see the Statue of Liberty and see if that thing's hanging out there. Craziness. Okay, so this is phase 4, and then we'll look at phase 5 because I know we're in phase 5 now, but I want to show you all the connections in this crazy circuit board diagram. Okay, so first of all, Nick Fury comes out of Spider-Man Far From Home, and he's going to head off the page. We have Captain Marvel coming off of Shang-Chi. She's going to head out of there. We have Monica Rambeau from WandaVision. And then down at the very bottom, look real closely at Miss Marvel, and you can see that's where she comes out. So, oh my goodness. Phase 4 is very, very connected, and it's crazy. All right, so then this is phase 5, and you can see down there the Marvels, I'm saying, is in November 2026, and all those lines that came off the previous page now come onto here and connect. So, yeah, very cool. And then last thing I want to throw out is I do think there is a reason that they've put some of these things as far out as 2026. A lot of people said, why on earth is Secret Invasion and now the Marvels in November 2026? Well, if we look at what I'm calling the street level and the political sagas, the top level is street level for sure. Middle is a political saga. I don't know what I would call Ironheart and Armor Wars. They're kind of a little bit of both, maybe. But I do think they're going to end up resolving everything. So let's look at when I think some of these are going to happen in the timeline. I think Daredevil is going to fill the gap between Echo and Captain America Brave New World because it's like multiple episodes, obviously. So it's going to start with some flashbacks of Wilson Fisk becoming Kingpin and then probably land in present day of late 2026, early 2027. But I'm kind of guessing it's going to end or overlap with Secret Invasion. So, and the edict from Ritson. Then in Captain America New World Order, we're going to see a new president, Ross. Something happens to Ritson, dies, impeached, resigns, we don't know. But again, this is why I think they placed Secret Invasion so far out. They needed more time to let these things happen before all hell breaks loose with Ritson's edict. Then I think the rest, I don't think we're going to go very far into 2027. I think Feige is going to slow things down so that when we get to Secret Wars, it's in 2028. And thus, it's the 20-year anniversary of Iron Man from 2008. So I think in real world, we're going to be 2028, but I think in the MCU, we're going to be 2028 as well. I think we're going to see a big slowdown in the timeline. So let me know what you think. These are just my theories. Obviously, there's more than this coming out, but I wanted to focus on these things because they're so tightly interwoven. Then obviously the multiverse saga is going to happen as well, but I think somehow Deadpool 3's events are going to end up being well into 2027 and out of the way of all of this. I think the street level and political saga will have wrapped up before we hit Avengers 5 and everything goes nuts from there. So those are my theories. Loved seeing the Marvels together. Hope you enjoyed the movie as well. It's a lot better movie than I think than the box office showed, at least I should say. It's not the best movie ever, no, but it's fun. It's just a fun ride. And look at those three together. You got to love it. You got to love it. All right, don't forget we have the February contest. Be a subscriber, leave a comment, and you could win a book or steelbook. And we have that membership option if you're interested. And we have the Discord server. So much going on the Discord server. We have rewatches of everything under the sun, Comic Club, MMORPG, retrospectives, you name it, it's going on. And we've even now added an iceberg to document the history of the channel because it's been around for a year, 1,100 members, craziness. So love to have you join. People from all across the globe on there, so there's always a conversation going on. Also, if you don't mind, like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. You can check out more content, and we'll all continue to enjoy the ever-growing, ever-changing Marvel Cinematic Universe.